Welcome back to Knack II.
So guys, I hope
Is
you
this is this the construction yard level from Toy Story 2?
Wait,
You wish.
were we here before and this is just now humans bringing construction to the site?
No, Jova, it's just so bland that.
Remember, we jumped here from the previous location, and now look. Basically, the daughter of Xander just bid goodbye, and now Lucas and Ryder are tagging.
Also, she's
For the
not
record,
his daughter,
Theo-
she's assistant, but
This people actually, but whatever. It's not like it matters. They have about as much personality as planks of wood, so it doesn't matter.
it really says something though. Like, it would have made more sense if this was the area they'd been to previously, because this looks exactly like the robot graveyard they were there. Just humans have come now to do some exploration and whatnot. Like, it would have saved them more time and money to. Well, okay, not more time and money, but it would have given them more credibility to just say that this is the same area, as opposed to trying to pass this off as a different one. Like, if that's the case, I'm sorry, weren't humans just discovering these robot bits with Ryder?
Kind of.
I guess.
We're
I
saying
will
that
say
this is a
this though,
different
I'm
area,
happy
right?
for the. I'm okay with the fact that there are NPCs around that also interact with both Knack and in this case Ryder. It gives
It's
a
the most
bit-
we've seen humans in an area
it
for a
gives-
while.
Yeah, it gives a bit. Well, to be fair, it was the city level, but those were like humans in distress, like panicking and everything. Here, it's a bit more quiet in this kind of stance, and it gives a bit more, you know, meat to the levels as well.
Archaeologists have been excavating here for years.
Wait, archaeologists
They
have been
found
excavating
nothing
here for years.
Until now.
I'm sorry. Let me get this straight. Archaeologists have been excavating here for years, yet apparently they never thought to maybe go after the robot graveyard that this group found earlier in the game.
They're really shitty archaeologists. Always.
Truly.
See what I mean when I say it would have just hurt the game less if they said this was the same area just with human construction in it? Heck, I didn't even bought the fact that they somehow managed to get all this construction up in so short a time.
It's like a discount Planet Wisp.
The big problem, Joe, is that
Planet Wisp
every
actually looks appealing.
I said a discount Planet Wisp.
Even
Yeah.
a
Not
discount
just
Planet Wisp looks better. But
I agree.
Pedro?
Not just the big problem is that because the game completely lacks any sort of personality of its own. It's incredibly easy. It's incredibly easy for the levels to just blend in together, and we just keep forgetting where we were and where are we right now. Like it's like there's nothing memorable about any of these locations that we visit. They're just generic levels. They don't even look all that appealing to the eye. They're just
No, this one just looks like, aside from, sections like this, like everything at the beginning just looks like a straight up construction site, and I get that's what it is, but it's not interesting.
Even
like-
the fact, I mean, the color, it's a bad color, but it's not enough to save it.
And
There's barely
well, to be
any.
fair, Theo, remember this game is trying to be more a PS2 Sony
Well,
platformer, and those platformers tend to have more muted colors than your typical Nintendo platformer.
But as I said last
To be
part,
fair,
they still
I
have
would
charm
argue
at
that
least.
Ratchet and Clank, for example, is absolutely fine with colors and everything.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm just saying, like, when you take a Sony platformer from the PS2 era and compare it to, say, a Mario or a Sonic, usually their color style is a bit more muted. You know, for the sake of
Are you talking first party?
yes, Jack and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank.
Well, Jack 2 and 3 are kind of... Well, Jack 3 thankfully improved things, but Jack 2 is an entirely different beast because of the
Yeah.
edge factor, where everything now is grey and dark. But I argue that the first one had color. In fact, I would say
had
that
color.
in this case, compared to this, Jack and Daxter is much better. This one instead is more saturated. It's
I wouldn't even
Yeah.
call it
Like,
saturated.
what I'm trying to
It
say,
looks like
sorry.
like someone put some Vaseline on the lens, but God.
What I'm trying to say is not that they're not colorful. I'm trying to say is that when you let me, for example, if we take if we take a level from Super Mario Odyssey and put it right next to a Ratchet and Clank level, you can clearly tell there's different art type of art direction.
Well,
Yeah,
the art direction,
both of them
obviously,
are still
yeah,
called.
but I
That's
would
what
argue
I'm
that
talking about, though, because when you look at the overall look of
Oh
a
my
Sony
god!
platformer,
Oh my god, guys! A worker actually reacted to Knack breaking something.
about time we got something like that.
when you take a look at okay, actually, you know what? Here, I'll use these two that came out in the same year and everything. When you compare the first Crash Bandicoot and Super Mario 64 side to side, Super Mario 64 is more colorful because you can keeping up with the tradition of Nintendo platformers. The art director obviously went with an incredibly colorful palette, full of colorful enemies and all that good stuff. Whereas Crash Bandicoot, for lack of a better term, because I know it's not the best term to use, but it's the one that I can best think of. Crash Bandicoot's colors and the overall look of the vegetation, the scenery, and all that shit looks more realistic, quote unquote, in the sense that the colors feel more
In comparison,
less
in comparison to the aforementioned stuff, Joba.
Yes, less cartoonish than a Mario game.
okay,
It's still cartoonish, mind you, but it's not as colorfully cartoonish as your
It's a
typical
little
Nintendo
more
game.
grounded, I guess.
Yeah, that's a better word for it. It's more grounded.
You'll probably just kill some workers with that.
Holy
Sorry.
cow.
Yeah.
Thanks, Knack.
Yes.
We owe you one. Oh, what?
That's the basic point that I'm trying to make. Go ahead, Joe.
No, now I understand. Okay.
I love how he said, "Oh, thanks, Knack. We owe you one." Oh, so him so much as rolling a boulder makes him owe you one, not him saving your lives from the goblins from the time.
Multiple times, yeah.
Priorities.
So the look of Knack II, my guess is the art director is trying to imitate that traditional aesthetic that Sony platformers are known for, because Mark probably clearly told them, okay, I want you to make this look like a typical successor to those kinds of games.
Yeah.
So, and that's why the game looks the way it does, and that the game looks good because of it. But I can. That's all I'm saying.
Only problem with
Go
that. Okay, if that was their idea, how did you get across them?
Oh,
there?
okay.
Take a look.
That's it.
And where's Ava?
Go take a look at
Ours
this
after the
cliche.
big robots.
Why? Oh. Ron.
A good example is also how remember Bob Raffay, who was the art director in Jack and Dexter, and even the first Uncharted. He also was the director and art director of Sonic Boom: Rise of Lyric, and that game clearly looks more like in terms of visuals, it clearly looks a lot more like a Sony platformer rather than a Sonic game.
Wasn't the rumor that that game was...
For example, let me give you an example, Joe. Sonic's blue color. Sonic's blue color is definitely more muted than you'd see in the Sonic team
brilliant.
games.
I get what you mean.
Okay. Fair enough on that. I will say this though. I wouldn't call. Well, okay, I guess. I'm not quite sure I'd call the typical Sony platformer muted, if only because we don't even really have a Sony platformer these days outside of Knack. But I guess the thing is, like, when it comes to Crash Bandicoot, I wouldn't call that muted compared to Mario, more in the sense that it had more layers of shading. Which
Sure.
I guess maybe you could consider
Which
muted,
is,
but...
also applies on the other way, in a sense, but Nintendo 64 could not handle these kind of differentiating of color.
Well, keep in
Yeah.
mind, Joe, I'm by no means an expert in art direction terms. I'm just
And also
speaking as the layman, basically, when it comes to these things.
This needs also to apply the coding of the game, and now it's reflected. Again, the Nintendo 64 means that lower graphical quality means using simpler type of colors.
Another clear characteristic is that both characteristic is how both Sonic Boom: Rise of Lyric and this game also have enemies that are very similar in art direction, specifically the mech enemies. Like for example, those ones we just saw in that cutscene. Like seriously, you could put those enemies in Rise of Lyric and they wouldn't look out of place at all because it's abundantly clear that this game is trying to go for that specific aesthetic. Go ahead, Shiri.
Well, as I was about to say, I mean, I'm not sure if this was ever confirmed at all, but wasn't the rumor going around that Rise of Lyric was just supposed to be a generic platformer?
Yeah,
but then
the original
suddenly
plan.
someone decided, could we
It's a
put
Sonic
Sonic in
game.
this?
Sega, yeah, but basically Bob Raffay went to Sega and pitched what he wanted to do, which was basically a spiritual successor to Jack and Daxter. However, Sega was like, okay, you can make it, but you have to make it a Sonic game because that way we'll sell more. That's the basic
And then
gist.
after one, and now you need to make
In fact, it was the
on
final
Wii U.
nail. In fact, the sales of that game were the final nail in the coffin for Sega. So, you know.
The sad part too is that I would argue the decision to make it a Sonic game wasn't what killed it. That it was the move
It
to
was
the Wii U.
Yeah, I agree.
Hey, you know,
Because
let's
the
use
engine,
something
yeah,
that
we
has.
discussed.
It was an engine that was mainly meant for, you know, first-person shooters more so than anything. And absolutely tanked with co-op. And hey, let's port it to the Wii U, you know, the kind of console that has 2 separate screens. Needless to say, that didn't go so well. So,
Do you think Rise of Lyric is gonna get a Switch port?
I was
I
about
don't
to
know.
mention that.
Well,
honestly.
everything else is ported to the Switch.
Okay, Shirai, here's the thing. If we see a season 3 for the TV show, which is the best thing to come out of the Boom brand, maybe we'll see a Switch port. Otherwise, don't count on it.
I'm mostly being sarcastic. I'm not buying that game.
Oh, you'd be surprised, Shirai.
And I'm sure some people would like it.
Also,
But not me.
going back to talking about this game, I just want to point out, Knack, for some reason, in order to activate stuff, has to vandalize construction property. Like, seriously, he pulls on that red
Barely
lever.
anyone pulls on this.
He pulls on that red lever, breaks it, and that somehow gets stuff to work. How?
You figured that one out.
Okay, PSA to writers or lore developers or creators of the kind, don't just make it so that breaking something activates it or deactivates it. I mean, okay,
Punch the keyboard.
there are some times when that is okay, but when you over-rely on it, it starts to get a bit old. Like, you know, there's kind of a reason that even most shows these days don't just stoop to that every episode.
Boomerang sword, sure.
I hear you can use scrap metal. We've got a lot of it right here.
Oh, I guess
Thanks.
word gets around a lot. Thanks. You're a useful NPC, so is it gonna come down anytime?
There it is,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think.
No, we have to climb up to get it, I guess.
All right, so now we are
Metal
blue.
Knack.
No, not Metal Knack 2. Metal Knack is
Metal
usually a darker color. This is like blue rock Knack of sorts. They never specify. This particular form doesn't have an actual name. It's just blue rocks that we need to use so we can be heavy enough to use those arbitrary weight
Well, if
thingies.
it has the same property as as Metal Knack, I guess it's a blue metal. Or
Sure.
I'm gonna
I
call
still,
it.
I still don't like. I still don't like having to, you know, this is so arbitrary. Those doors that can only be opened by having a certain weight. It's just
That
slows down the
usually,
game.
these mechanics should be usually reserved for Metroidvania, a game where it is very open, but has roadblocks tied to abilities when you acquire by defeating bosses.
Whereas this is a linear platformer that doesn't have exploration at all.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jova.
Anyway, I guess the correct term is scrap metal Knack because the worker did just say that that's scrap metal we have. So, scrap metal
So
Knack.
it's still a metal knack.
Only, I guess scrap metal is
And I think
automatically
you can
blue?
create the statue with this.
Don't you see, Shiroi? It's Metal Knack, but it's blue.
So, does he have
Cobalt
different...
abilities?
I guess.
Oh,
remember
I think,
what
let me
specific
guess, you have to
metal can
leave
be
the
blue.
statue on there.
Yep.
There we go. And there we go.
Anything we can do to help? We shut all the gates, but
Now
it's
let's
not
How
get-
slowing
about
down.
you just, get out of the way, please.
There you go. Let's take the scrap metal with us.
Anyway, you were saying, Jova, before the cutscene?
Yeah, gotta wonder, I mean, does scrap metal Knack have any interesting different abilities, or is he literally just metal Knack recolored?
No, it's probably just Metal Knack recolored, so basically has the same thing. The statue, the shit, leaving shit behind thing,
Yeah, it's
and
blue.
that's
Are,
it.
are they saying that all metal gets recycled out so that it's blue? I mean, if it's scrap metal, shouldn't it be
If
like a
anything,
bunch
this
of
just
junk?
proves more and more that these power-ups are a situation where we shouldn't be, because Knack comes in a lot of situations where you could use these kind of power-ups, but he doesn't use them.
You
Even
know,
if they die around.
it's kind
Sonic
of
is the blue. Sorry.
it kind of begs the question. It's like, well, okay, so is it only with Metal Knack that he can leave a statue behind? Because technically he has
Yes.
particles in any super form he has, so why can't he technically do this with any other form? I mean, okay, maybe ice because it would melt.
no other form just leaves. He has puzzles tied to that.
I mean, it's not like, he couldn't just do that. I mean,
Paper now.
Fuck
Eh?
you.
really? Of all the time
What?
and places, people.
So yeah, I have to leave that thing behind, obviously.
Why haven't a lot of these people been evacuated yet?
I guess
The
they're
area
in
has
too
not been
deep.
evacuated yet.
Anyway, yeah, Sonic is the blue blur, Knack is the blue pile of crap.
Come on, Knack. You can do it. Somehow. I guess we have to leave that scrap metal behind.
I hate these things.
Oh,
All
God.
it does is slow down the freaking game.
Again, guys, the power-ups are technically better. They do more stuff. And yet, here we go again with that monkey's paw.
Okay. Video game designers out there, if for some reason this video reaches you, don't put this in your game, okay? This kind of obstacle. This is not fun. It's not challenging. It's just tedious, okay? Don't put it in there,
It
okay?
says
It's like a
something that even Mighty
Impa-
Number 9 got the concept of power-ups actually making the game more fun better than this.
While I'm at it, whoever made Resident Evil 6, that whole mechanic of climbing the rope where we just press R2, then L2, then L2, then R2, then L2, like for like a full minute? No. Okay?
While
Whoever
we're
had that idea should be fired.
while we're hey,
Yes,
while we're,
yes, I know that the Ninja Gaiden games do that as well, but at least Yabusa goes faster. I mean,
And there's something else that you can, and they're usually more fun. Resident Evil 6 took itself way too seriously for its own good.
Hey, since we're calling out devs in the Resident Evil series, by the way, hey, whoever at Capcom thought it was a good idea to sell Resident Evil 7 on the Switch as just a stream only, no. You shouldn't even be surprised that that didn't take off like you thought it would.
so yeah, that was fun.
If
But
fun...
Pedro, it's a puzzle. How many P-cards is it worth?
Okay. You see,
What?
okay. This is the kind of puzzle for people who have Earthworm gyms for hyper intelligent brains.
No, I think even Jim's smarter than that.
Jova, to give you an idea, there's a joke that's one of my favorite jokes in the version cartoon where they're about to get sucked into a black hole. So Jim has to do something to keep them safe while Peter fixes the rocket. That rocket that he always leaves at the end of every level. And Jim's like, I'll solve this problem with my 4 hyper-intelligent brains. And then we actually see the inside of his head. And the 4 brains are like, I'm hungry, I'm cold, I'm itchy, where are the girls? And then Jim's like, okay, plan B. When all else fails, start blasting! So there you go. That's basically what these puzzles are. These are puzzles for people who have the 4 brains of Jim.
You know, there's another problem with these puzzles. They take away from a sense of urgency. Like, maybe it would help if there were like
Yeah, it's
explosions in the
similar-
background or whatnot, but otherwise,
It kind of halts everything.
It's similar to what happened in the Discount London city. Yeah, the goblins are totally attacking.
like, okay, let's compare this to Arkham City. Sure, there are parts where you have to solve puzzles, but while you're solving those puzzles, you hear a lot of the background noises or whatnot. People getting tortured or a woman about to be killed while you're hurrying to do it or whatnot. Heck, sometimes you actually are on a time limit while solving
Yeah,
those
like
puzzles.
with that shot.
So again, was it really that hard to, at least add some scenic stuff if you weren't going to be bothering to add some gameplay stuff to make it more interesting?
Apparently.
I mean, this is one of those games that definitely tries to have its cake and eat it too. Like, okay,
Yeah.
you
It's a
can't.
terrible cake.
You make a big deal out of stuff, yet you can't show it.
Garbage cake.
Is it even
Alright,
worth
let's
saying
see.
that the cake is a lie? Would you even want this cake?
And don't you understand our gamer humor, Pedro? Smash that like button.
Also, yes, PSA.
That physically hurt Pedro.
Also, PSA, the Portal series is a much more fun puzzle game than this ever will be.
Well, duh, it's built entirely around solving puzzle instead of being simply fixed camera.
Not only that, but you got
This
GLaDOS.
game was designed by a pack
Yeah, I
of
was gonna
monkeys.
say you have the company of someone who's actually fun.
Yeah, GLaDOS. And she's a robot. Huh. Also
Wiki.
written better than Knack.
There you go.
A lot of personality.
This is
For
basically
better
what
or
you have.
worse.
There you go. This is basically what you have to do. There you go.
No,
Alright.
you know what's funny? God of War Ascension on the PS3 has puzzles similar to this, but I would argue much better, where you need to leave like a stone copy of you behind and activate platforms with it.
What's
Sorry.
that sound?
It's a
Tank.
you
Oh my
dipshit.
god, are those humans dead? No, I guess they were
No.
just knocked over by a tank firing!
A goblin tank.
I mean,
It's actually made of foam.
No, sure. We gotta do
Ah,
this like
these are the same, basically the same type of tanks we fought in the first game.
Sure. We gotta do this like Arkham Knight. They're made of rubber. The missiles, the bullets, and everything.
Yes, every single projectile is non-lethal for some reason.
Well, it's because Batman has a no-kill policy.
Yeah, no, but it's the thing. Everything is non-lethal despite how violent it still looks.
That's the Batman for ya.
Now, please don't pay attention to the fact that some people may be buried under rubble that may be destructed by those bullets.
Don't worry, Keo. The city was evacuated in one night.
No, Joe, that's the Shadow the Hedgehog line. Like you have to use the Batman v Superman line.
No, Pedro, I'm not.
This place is abandoned. Yeah, that.
I'm actually
Go
not
ahead.
kidding you, Pedro. Gotham City gets evacuated one night before the events of
The
Arkham
night
Knight
of
take
Halloween.
place.
Yeah.
True. Okay, fine. In that case, feel free. Usually, the one I like to use is the Batman v Superman one. Why did you bring Doomsday here? The port is abandoned. The port is abandoned. Everything. Basically, Shiroi, every time there's a big fight in Batman v Superman, they always take the time to say, "Oh, this place is abandoned." Like every single place in that movie is a fucking desert. Nobody lives anywhere.
It was made as damage control after the fact that people complained that Man of Steel featured way too much collateral damage, where Superman did not care about the buildings that he destroyed.
Yeah. So basically, it's literally Zack Snyder basically begrudgingly indulging.
And it's a shame because, as we noticed in both commentaries, the fight scenes in Man of Steel are probably the best thing about the movie. Zack Snyder knows how to do Dragon Ball style fights, which fits perfectly with Superman, but then it caused the problem with the collateral damage. But yeah, we already saw it. We already
I don't
sang that
remember,
song.
aside from the universe context, I don't remember any IRL people complaining about that for the Avengers movies.
Well, here's the big difference, Shira. The Avengers movies actually took, for example, remember that scene?
I mean, yeah, they got
yeah,
like
it's
Muppets
like-
in
like
universe
Blackjack,
eventually,
yeah.
but before that, no one was.
I love the this of this out had to be between asterisks.
Oh, now you call Michelle.
And now we're going to Small Knack control this tank and blow shit up. You think? And believe it or not, this is way less fun than it sounds.
So, first-person camera.
Anyway, okay, allow me to remind you,
Trying to
Shiroi.
smell.
Allow me to remind you, Shiro, this is one of my favorite scenes in the first Avengers movie, is how the Captain America, my favorite character, goes in like and he talks to the cops and literally orders the cops, okay, I need men in those buildings, you need to evacuate all those people and all that stuff. And then of course we had that great joke with the cop, like, why should I listen to you? And then he takes Scarlet and then but anyway. Yeah, so yeah, Captain America, being the awesome guy that he is and a great military leader, he fought of the people and he made sure the people were evacuated, and we actually see this happening.
And yet
the
somehow
same-
they're considered bad
We
boys.
also see this happening in Age of Ultron, where some of the Avengers are trying to protect the people and try to evacuate the people, and the others are trying to keep the bad guys away from the people.
But
Again,
Pedro, the Avengers just left without helping anyone, according to Civil War.
well, that's just here's the big difference, Joe. But yes, he's the big thing, and Shira even pointed this out when she first saw Age of Ultron. They try their best to keep the casualties to a minimum, but well, there's only so much they can do in that particular.
No. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when a certain.
But at least they tried.
I'm talking
Which
about
is
when
better
a,
than what you.
The military cover-up, that was what Joe was describing. My point also
okay.
is this, regardless of everything, you have to also to understand there's a big difference in the fact that the Marvel Universe heroes, heroic as they may be, they also have to be considered on a slighter gray morality. They're not completely pure. Everyone has a skeleton in the closet, everyone has done something terrible in their life at some point. Superman instead is supposed to be the paragon of pure righteousness and justice.
Yeah, that was the whole reason it was invented to begin
most,
with.
the most lawful good that you can imagine.
Well, I would argue. I would argue before before the comics fucked it up, Captain America is also supposed to represent those qualities.
Yeah, to be fair,
not
Cap
every
also had
time.
some skeletons in his closet even before
It's
the
a
whole
mentality.
Nazi
It's
stuff.
an entire mentality that the Marvel universe has in general for all its characters, regardless of everything. There's not a single super pure character. Sentry was for a while, but Sentry is a complete fuck up as a character, and I don't want to waste
The-
time
the-
on
He
it.
started
the
off
basic-
as being
the
a
basic point-
Superman
sorry.
ripoff made by Marvel.
The point
which
being,
that was gonna
the
go.
way what Superman represents, because of what Superman represents, those scenes in Man of Steel feels more to you because you think, no, that's not what Superman would do.
And I am
They
actually
could have
glad
done something
that
like what Goku does. Like, for example, one of my favorite.
Take it to the desert.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
Yes,
let me give you an example. One of my favorite Dragon Ball Z OVAs is the 7th one, the one where we fight Android 13. The fight does start in the city, but then Trunks wisely says, Goku, if we keep fighting here, we'll put the population in danger. Let's take this to the North Pole. And Goku, yeah, you're right. Come on, follow us. So basically, again, I'm not saying that they didn't avoid every single casualty possible, but at the very least, they were thoughtful enough. Where the problem, with, of course, with Man of Steel is the fact he didn't even give an ounce of thought about the consequences of what was happening.
Well, I guess a better example then would be the crystal gems, because despite how much they say they care about Earth, throughout
There was an
season
entire
one, they
episode
commit so much.
dedicated to that.
They commit so much collateral damage, and they're so nonchalant about it, even in season one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, what you were saying?
Yeah, I am glad that DC, the comics, have thankfully gone back to the whole Superman Boy Scout thing. In fact, I could go on for eons of why the DC comics have gotten better, but we don't want to be here forever. Going to the Crystal Gem swinging. Oh my god, I just realized, didn't we be talking about the game going on?
That's because
No,
this section
that
is
There's
just not
nothing going
boring.
on.
Yeah, there was a
That
tank
section
scene.
is just so boring. You'd think a tank section would be fun and interesting, but it's not. It's just generic and boring. But go ahead.
Yeah, what?
It reminds me a bit of the Agent 9 levels in Spyro 3.
I'm not a fan of the...
Yeah, I can imagine. But Shiro, the Doom reference is fun in Fireworks Factory.
Although, I'll say this, I'll take Agent 9.
Agent 9 just annoys the fuck out of me, so I don't...
I'll say this, I'll
I can
take Agent
imagine.
9 over the freaking trolley.
You'd be surprised, Joe, but the trolley gave me no troubles whatsoever. I don't understand where people come from. However, you know what's like the trolley for me?
What?
The crystal popcorn challenge.
Screw that. Screw everything
The
about
second
that.
one. Hunter moves so fast that I so hope the Reignited trilogy will fix that.
It's not so much the first half, it's the second half of it that's
Yeah,
actually
the
the
second
problem.
half. And the fucking camera doesn't help. But we're driving. The point being, that tank section in this game just is boring.
Allow me to
No
recap.
one likes tanks in Spyro
way-
either.
The way the enemies are paced and the way you need to destroy them, it's not good. There are some creative idea, like the boulders, when you give a priority in destroying, because those can actually damage the tank properly, but it just doesn't work at all. Yes, Jova?
Allow me to recap that tank section for you folks, in case you were listening more to us than watching it, and I wouldn't blame you. Essentially, that tank section works in the sense that Knack is piloting it, and you're looking from the back of him. You will occasionally, and I mean occasionally, get stuff to blow up, and other than that, it's just open road. Oh, and the tank cannot go far with you. It's kind of amazing. It's like, hey, imagine if that cool water upgrade you can get in those Crash swimming levels would only go with you to a certain level. Oh wait, that's right, that's what they did in Wrath of Cortex, and people did not like that for a reason.
Yeah.
Basically, you get something that's moderately more cool than the norm, only to barely have anything to do with it, and then it's taken away.
Anyway, folks, we hope you enjoyed these minor ramblings. See you for the next part to see what Knack will do to these high goblins.
See,
See ya.
it is the High Goblins we're going after. I've lost track.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
It really sucks because the goblins are the one providing them with it. It's almost like the high goblins were a very pointless differentiation.
I wonder. Anyways, here.
See
See ya.